The next step will be to create orchid roots. Roots that come from the bottom of the leaves. There are those that are attached at the base of the leaf, this very structure, and there are those that grow at the very bottom, practically from the ground. Well, of course, they come from the leaves. Here, in general, how are we going to do them? For this we need clay again, called porcelain. Let's take a small amount. This will be enough. We will make some spines. We'll not do much. What will we need to do? We will need to mix the light green color. Because they are greenish roots. There are shriveled roots. They naturally change color. Well, it is better to tint with paint later and make the base light green. Therefore, we will now do so. First, we'll add zinc white, in order to give whiteness to the clay and remove excess transparency. Like the roots, they are quite made, not transparent. So we need the white paint first. We need well. Then add some green color. I will probably add herbal green to make it a warmer shade of green afterwards. So, we take a grassy green and quite a drop. I think that will be enough. Now let's see what shade will be obtained. The main thing is not to be dark, of course. We need light green. It's over. So, probably a little more and that's it. That's enough. Now we need and see what color we get. Okay, now for a second. Spread all the paint over the clay. This is the color it turns out, light green. Look, this I think will be enough. Better than, if anything, we tint a little. So, now we will wrap it in film and show our further actions. What will we do? To fix the roots, we don't just roll them out of clay, we fix them on a wire. Here I have a wire 1 mm thick. Now I will even measure it. What is the thickness of the wire so that it holds the frame well? Yes, 1 mm. So that you can then insert it into the base. I will cut into small pieces. I'll take the wire cutters. The segments in principle will be short enough, but it is not necessary to do too long. I will make 4 segments for 4 spines. So, these are the 4 segments. Now, what do we do next? I use a small amount of clay. First, I'll make a small spine, short. How are we going to do it? Now for a second I'll show you. We need a little clay. In general, what do we need to do? We make a ball first, then we roll out the sausage. Since the roots are sufficient, not very thin, they are different. They are thinner, thicker, depending on where they grow, how close they are to the outer leaves. Which are closer to the top, they are thicker because the roots are fresher. Well, although I have one spine sticking out, it's dried up. In general, light green means fresh, good roots. So, not the point. What are we going to do with it? This will be a small spine. To give it the desired texture, we will take it now, use a dry napkin. Now, we take a napkin. I need it a little now. Plain dry napkin. We put our sausage here and gently, like this, press it from all sides to give the desired texture. because the roots, after all, are not smooth but have some bruises. Small texture. Now let's see what happens. You can just walk your fingers gently, twirl it like that. That is, the texture is obtained. Look, I think it can be seen well. Let's press down here again at the beginning. If you have very soft clay, very sticky, fresh, then it is better, for example, you roll the sausage, for example, and leave it a little. Let it wind up. And you can already make it textured on napkins. Look at the texture. I think you can see. What are we doing now? Now we take a piece of wire, put it in the glue completely, the edge, and push it like this. Do you literally know how much? We lower it 1 centimeter into the clay, into the spine to fix it. The spine is at such a distance, about 1 centimeter. The coat will dry out. It will hold very well, and we can already gently insert the wire into the base. And you can even twist it a little. Look. So we twist it. First, the desired texture is created, additional folds and a slight bend, which happens at the roots. Now you can take any kind of drying base and fix it with such a bend and leave it to dry. Let's clean up and make another spine, longer. For this, I take more clay. So, again, remember, we roll the ball. Roll out. You can do this on a flat surface. I have a table. I roll it out on the table. We make such a sausage. Now I put in a napkin and start twisting like this. You can even squeeze it from all sides like this. Squeeze it. So, see what happens. It turns out this is the texture we need. Now again we take the glue. Dip the wire into the glue a little. And we insert the spine again somewhere to a depth of 1 centimeter. Now you can again twist slightly. Holding on to the top, turn slightly, not much. Look, do not tear or it may tear. So, you can correct it here. This creates the desired texture again. I think you can see it well. And the bend. That's all. Now we put it. I will again fix all this in the form we need. We don't just leave it on the table, otherwise there will simply be a straight spine. I will fix it, make a slight bend and let it dry. The same thing will make 2 more spines, and then after drying, we also tint them. That's all. The next thing we will do is we need to tint the roots because they're light and we will tint them. How will we tint? See, I'll use herbal green paint. Here I have light ochre and black, gas soot. In total, I will add and combine the color a little bit, we get what we need. Look, I add a little bit of paint to the palette. I have foil as a palette, it is very convenient for me to use it. So, black is also quite the essence and add ochre. Now we take the thinner and we mix it all gently, dilute it of course. You can immediately add an even number here. And now we will use a dry napkin. So here we have a napkin. And I'll add some ochre. So what am I going to do? Look, diluted the green, added a little even. Well, in principle, what you need, because the color is not bright. Gently brush like this. I apply it. It is very liquid. The liquid form of a paint, then add that dilution. Now I walk with my fingers like this. Rub. All these dents that we have, they stand out due to the fact that the paint is liquid, and it gets into all these dents, streaks, and this is the effect of the spine. Now, you can take some ochre and add it here, closer to the edge, to the tops. So I do the same thing, I shade it. I smear it with my fingers. So, and you can add a slightly more saturated green. Let's say somewhere here. This will have a new green spine. Because the roots that are at the very top, mainly above the pot, are not the ones at the bottom of the pot. Although in the depths I'm also green. These are new shoots, roots that grow, of course, they're mostly green. The roots which have long been in the orchid sometimes turn brown, sometimes with specks. These are probably already spoiled roots. So here is a spine turned out. And of course, we do this toning for everyone with a spine. And now I will show how we will attach this root to the leaf, to the leaves. Look, I have already glued one spine and it is tinted with me. Now we will attach the spine here, which we tinted with you. It will also grow from leaves. So it actually happens. What are we doing? Look, the length of the wire is somewhere around 4 centimeters. We'll cut it. In short, I will do it now because we will insert it. It will be enough. We will stick to the leaves. And in order to be able to insert, we do a full with a stack. So where do we do it? Well, let's do it. They grow in different ways. Let's do it here. Since the clay is already dry, carefully make such a small hole so as not to completely pierce the leaf through. And now you can measure whether or not we will be able to insert completely or not. Or you'll have to cut the wire. Now, what happens? Look, thus the spine is inserted. You can also make an air spine on the other hand. They will be like this, sticking up a little. So, and this spine will better stick on superglue. Now I will mix it with superglue, put it in, and of course it will hold up much better. So, we take superglue, gently coat it, suck it a little, and we put it back into this hole. That's all. Let it stay like that now. It will dry out. Firstly, you see, it is flexible with me. It's not completely dry, but dries up, of course. The knot will stand with me and will be completely dry. This one also has a flexible spine. Then, if desired, it will be possible, if you want, to fix them, to dry in some particular form. Add something, or you can somehow put it to dry. I'll just put it upside down like that, let it dry, and then we'll collect the orchid in the pot. Well, now it's time to make a stem that would hold the flowers themselves. I will do it. Look what kind of wire. You can end up using floristic wire, which is sold, but mostly there either the thickness is not suitable. We need a wire that is thick and strong so that it doesn't bend under the weight of the flowers. And the length sometimes doesn't match. You need a long enough piece of wire. Therefore, I use this coil of wire. It is sold, and then I buy such a wire in hardware stores. The wire is about 1.5 millimeter thick. 1.5 2 millimeter. Now I will measure it. I will tell you for sure. Very easy to use. I now use such a wire. What will I do? Look, I take the required segment. I need the length of such a wire since our stems are still quite long and we need a piece to fix the base in the pot. Therefore, I will cut off somewhere 50-60 centimeter and tell which one exactly fits. Even if it turns out to be long in the end, it is better to cut it later than it will be short after all. It is better to make a long enough section so that it is more convenient to work later and fix the wire itself. I took the wire itself with a margin, and now I will measure it. I will tell you the approximate length. It is not necessary to do this length directly. 30, even more than 60 centimeter. So 30, 60 and 10. I took the 70 centimeter length. It is a bit too long, but it's better to keep it long than short. When we dry the stem with flour after rolling, we will do it in periods, in small stages. Therefore, when the flour dries up, we will make just such a loop at the end for which we hang upside down a stem with flowers. It dries up. This is very convenient to do. So look, in order to cut, I use nippers like this. Very convenient to use. Now what needs to be done? I have such a construction knife, and we need to remove the winding. The winding is in the way. I carefully shoot with such movements. You can do it in the way you like. We remove the windings and then we carefully wrap with the tape. Let me film everything behind the scenes and show the finished version. We should get such a wire. The thickness of the wire, now let's see, is 2 millimeters. The thickness of such a wire is 2 millimeters. A very good option because it holds the weight of a flower well. Not too thick, ideal, I believe, for stems. Everything I will do it to the end. Do the same thing. So, here's what happened after removing the winding. Now, what do we need to do? You need to wrap with the tape. Why is this done? In order to clay from slipping off the wire. It is metallic and we need to create the desired surface on which the clay will lie. For this I will use a tape. It is dark green. Not even dark green, but green grassy color. I take a small amount. We cut it off and pull it a little to make it stickier. See what we will do. You can just apply, wrap, but it will slide off. This is already a proven option, as I have already done. To prevent the tape from slipping off the wire, so that the flowers do not move in the wrong direction, I will use glue. In my case, super glue. What am I doing? First, I apply to the very top of the wire in order to first fix the tape. I press it, I hold it so that it holds. Of course, this process is not particularly interesting for you in terms of watching the whole process. I will at least show you how I do it. I will capture further off screen. Make the same thing. If you use the same options as mine, the same wire, this is very convenient. At least after gluing the tape with super glue, You will be sure that the clay will not go anywhere. The flower will not move, the flowers together with the buds. Everything will hold on well and tightly. Look, it's a great option. Now I will fix all this. I will wrap the tape with some superglue. Do the same. And then we will fix the buds with flowers. So what do we need to do in order to roll around the trunk of an orchid? I have prepared the buds that we will attach, and of course we will need clay, which we will roll in. We will make the clay dark green with a slightly bluish tint. It won't be just herbal green or very dawn green, but such a small shade. Let's see. First we take a small amount of clay. To start, we will not immediately need an enormous amount. At first you need to take such an amount of clay to wrap 2 wires, because 2 stems for orchids. Look, first we take a small amount, make the desired color, and then leave the sample necessarily, not a small amount of clay, and then we will make even more. We first need to see what color it turns out. So, I will use herbal green paint and ultramarine light. The green I'll add a little blue. So, add paint. So it is blue. There should be more green than blue. Therefore, we are now trying to mix that we squeezed a small amount of paint into the clay. We need. And we look at what color it turns out. Again, I remind you that we need a color that is not too dark, because after drying, the clay darkens by 2-3 tones. Even if it seems to us that it is light, it will still darken after drying. So now we will seek the required color. See what happens. Light anyway, even though it will be darker even after drying, we also need to add a small amount of paint. So, we knead well. And let's see what color it turns out. The main thing is that the paint is evenly distributed over the clay, so that there are no transitions or lumps. To make a uniform color. So let's see. I think that's enough, because the color is quite intense. And it is not just grassy green, warm shades, but greenish with a slight transition to blue. This is a peculiar shade of green. I find it hard to put into words his example, but I know that after drying it becomes darker and will remind the living trunk shade orchids, which will be of such a dark green color. That's it. Now we leave a small amount of the sample. We will use this clay now to roll the barrel. We leave this piece as a sample. We wrap it in a film, and the next piece of clay, which we will need, we will do so that it completely coincides in color with this piece above the sample. That's all. Let's start running. Before attaching the buds to the wire, what are we going to do? We need to make a small bud on top of the catfish at the very beginning of the orchid stem. We will make it with the help of clay, with which we will roll in the trunk. How are we going to do it? Very small. So now, such a pea. And wire number 22. So a small cut. We dip it in latex glue. And now we will go through this clay, roll the wire, make a small branch at the end with a bud. We will form it manually. We will shift a little, and by post we will see what height it turned out. See where the wire ends. Here is a sign at the top. From it we form such a mini bud. Look, here you twist your fingers carefully and create a conical shape. Here's one. So this is what comes out with us. You can make it a little thinner. Now we will remove the surplus. So, here's what happens. Here I have clay quite easily and evenly. If you have dents, then it is better to use water and walk through the dents like this in order to roll in so that an even stem turns out. So distance and size. Now I will try and what it turned out. 2 centimeter with a small bud. Look, it is quite small. It will be located here in the beginning. Here we will fix it. And here the smallest bud will be located nearby. Now we need to leave it to dry. Literally 0.5 hour or already for 1 hour, we will leave it to fix it exactly. And then attach the tape to the wire. So, after we have dried up the smallest bud that we made with you, we now need to screw it on. And then we will start running. I will cut the wire further as it is still long. I think this size will be enough in length. Here about 2 centimeters. Next, what do? I will make a right angle bend where the clay passes into the wire a little bit, and now I will need to fasten the tape. To do this, I take the tape, and now we do not need this thickness, and we will now cut it in half. Take the tape, fold it up. So, and we cut it. For 2 such strips. Now we take 1 strip and now we'll screw it with it. We'll pull a little to make it stretch and become more sticky. Now what do we do next? First I screw on a small piece of tape. Then I take the bud and put it on too. Two turns are enough. Do not screw very thickly, as this will thicken the wire. Now watch what I'm doing. Right there, next to the small bud, I glue our smallest painted bud. And before we screw it on, I'll bend it a little. Look, the buds have a more convex side, and we will bend it inward with this convex side. Look. Where it is less convex, we grab it like this and gently lower the bud like this. That is, the side where the bulge is large, it descends as if inward. And here we kind of bend. We make a bend at a right angle, carefully. In this case, do not break anything. Look, here's what happens. Now let's screw it on, next to this bud, but opposite. We apply. We will cut the wire too now. We will not leave such long tails. We apply opposite. And again we fasten the tape. We can just go further to the end of the wire from the buds to screw. That's all. And we cut off. Here's what happens. This is the form. Now what do we need to do? I'll show you now. Let's take such pliers and we need to make a bend. See where the bend is. Somewhere at a distance of 2 cm from the butts. The bend to the side is small, while we haven't run in anything yet. Well, the wire is empty. Now we go down somewhere not 2 centimeters. We make a bend in the other direction. Here's what happens. And you can make another bend of 2.5 centimeters. So approximately. Do not bend too much, such that there was a small wave. We look to align everything neatly. Here's a plan. These are the bands that should be. At the junction, at the top of the bands like this, we will attach the butts. So now what are we going to do next?